Game week 2 is upon us, and I'm here to give you belief that there is a redemption arc in the making. I am currently ranked over 8 million because of my horrible Game Week 1 score, but I am tapping into my skill that hopefully I can bring back the forts from last year where I finished 4,881 and get the season back on track. I'm giving the boys one more chance without using a transfer in order to get the ship righted to get me going where I need to be going. With that being said, smash a like on the video, share it with your mates, leave me a comment with what you're doing this week, and if you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button. And with that being said, let's go. Here we are. This team was pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. As if I picked a team in Game Week 1 that achieved me a rank of 8,650,853. I'm still trying to think about how this went so horribly wrong. But it did. It did. I own it. Let's have a look. Where it just went to pop, really. Dubravka, 2 points on the bench. Let's just look at the bench really quickly. Thankfully, I didn't leave any points there, but it could have been another week. Valentin, 1 point. Wasn't expecting anything there. That didn't worry me too much. That's why I bought him. It was more for this week than last week. Didn't worry me. The Kuiper, 95th minute, clean sheet wipeout. How unlucky is that? Dorgu hit the post against Arsenal, gets a yellow card, 1 point. At least I didn't leave too many points on the bench. Then we talk about the Nottingham Forest defence. Double up there. I thought it was potentially a shoo-in. Brentford didn't look overly good in pre-season. Neither did Forest. I was expecting a nil-all draw. Well, how badly wrong did I get that? So, unfortunately, Forest, dubious penalties. There was dubious calls in VAR all weekend. Some people benefited from it. If you had Chelsea defence, you definitely benefited from it. If you had Leeds players and Everton players. I mean, there were so many dud calls this weekend. I don't understand what's going on with VAR. Some of the rules I just don't get. They just keep changing from week to week. And it's good to know that we're here for the long haul with Game Week 1. We saw it, and hopefully Game Week 2, we get more of the same. But double Nottingham Forest defence, unfortunately, got completely wiped out. Brentford they just had a nightmare. Literally had a nightmare. If you concede 3 goals to Forest, you need to do some work on the training ground. Let's be honest, Collins, 0-pointer. If I'd picked Lacroix instead, and that was who I should have probably picked, that was an 8-point swing. So, not ideal. Then West Ham, Juve and Bowen could have scored in that first half. The second half, it was a table 2 halves. First half, West Ham were all over them, looked like they were going to score. Second half, Sunderland got the goal, and that was just, just unfortunate. Just unfortunate. Then we get into the midfield. Saka, pretty invisible against United at Old Trafford. Hopefully he shows up this week. Bruno Fernandes was 1 DC contribution away from at least +2. Again, just unlucky. Poor choice. I don't know. Cole Palmer was cold. Absolutely cold. Completely MIA. That's not why I bought you, buddy. I bought you for the Club World Cup form. I might have to remind myself that you haven't scored an open play in the Premier League since the 8th of January. This is concerning. You've got 1 week. You're on notice. If you don't show up this week, see you later. Up front, Watkins and Aston Villa just weren't at the races at all. And then let's get to the 2 blokes that actually performed. Cody Gakpo showed up. At least 1 player showed up. He showed up for me against Bournemouth at home. He got a goal. Probably should have added some bonus points in there because he was definitely the most creative player in the first half. And then Reindeers, I forecast that he'd be pulling the D unit sleigh. I didn't realise that he would be literally pulling the D unit sleigh. It is one of those things. Rudolph thankfully showed up and hopefully shows up again this week because I don't know if I can trust any of his other flogs to do anything this week. But yeah, 37 points. Absolute disaster class for Game Week 1. 8,650,853 is the worst ever rank I've ever had at the end of a game week. I've got to sit there and laugh about it because if you don't, it makes you want to quit the game. So on to my final plugs for Game Week 2. And look, who is the best captain this week? And look, last week I said that Haaland was the best captain. It turned out he was a pretty good shout. He got 13 points, doubled, and a lot of people that did pick him got 26 points, which is fantastic for them. This week is a much harder choice. Now, obviously, Man City have a much harder, well, you think on paper have a much harder fixture with Tottenham at home. Liverpool go away to Newcastle. It's not an easy fixture. Cole, whatever you want to call him, goes away to West Ham. Surely, based on last week, has a better fixture, but who knows at this point. And Saka, who was pretty invisible at Old Trafford, goes home with Leeds visiting. I've got my captaincy on one of those blokes. Let's be honest, but it is a tight call this week. If you'd had to ask me straight off the bat, you've got to go with the easiest fixture, and that means probably an Arsenal player. Do you need Salah or Haaland in your team? Now, if you had both of them, ironically, last week, you're probably in the top half of the millions of players worldwide, because most people that would have had both of them probably captained Salah, but if you went Haaland, you're an absolute genius. I did say he was better than Salah, and that is the one that I want in my team more than the other. I think Salah you can take on this year at that price point with the other midfielders that are there, but Haaland just looks like a set and forget. Honestly, I kind of regret not having him a little bit, but I'm willing to roll it another week just to see if my understanding of the game in Game Week 1 was warranted. Hopefully it is, and I look like a genius in Game Week 2, but I am scared that it's also going to be like it was in Game Week 1. Will West Ham, Brentford, Villa and Chelsea be better this week? Well, in regards to Brentford, I hope they're not, because I'm playing Ollie Watkins and I'm not playing Collins this week. In regards to West Ham, I hope they score. Ditto with Chelsea. Ideally, with Cole Palmer and Bowen doing something to return, because they literally weren't there last week. They literally were on the beach last week. All these players were on the beach last week. So they were still partying in Ibiza to Ants on a Saturday evening and forgot to show up for the D Units team. Not good enough. Will we see more DC superheroes this week? That is the question. Bruno Fernandes, Anderson from Nottingham Forest finished one off the DC contribution total they needed for the extra 2 points. I had Collins, didn't get anywhere near it really. Milinkovic finished on 8, not ideal. So the players I paid up for thinking I was going to get the DC contributions just didn't show up in Game Week 1. It does depend a lot on how the game unfolds. If the team plays defensively, they're more likely to get it. If they're playing offensively like Man United did in that second half where Arsenal just conceded possession, it's much harder to get those DC contributions. Should you bench boost? Now, a lot of people were prepared for a bench boost Game Week 2 with their Burnley and Sunderland assets to get it over with. Honestly, based on what I saw last week between Burnley and Tottenham, I can't say that playing a bench boost with Esteve and Dubravka is anything other than a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe they'll be fine. It'll be a 0-0 draw. I just feel like Sunderland are going to score. Mark Gui didn't even get off the bench last week. So a lot of people's benches look really bad this week. So for that reason, I'd say if you can hold it, you've got another 17 weeks to play it. So why play it now? Should I be worried about my double Spurs defense against City? 100% you should be. City looked really good attacking-wise last week. And you're literally going to be relying on attacking returns this week if you have double Spurs defense. This is the problem. It looked really good in Game Week 1. It looks horrible this week. It looks pretty good again from next week onwards, though. So, realistically, if you've got the chance, you can bench him. This is the week to bench him. And should you be watching transfers? The answer is yes. Eze could be leaving Crystal Palace to go to Spurs by the time this video comes out. Like, so many things could be happening. Man United might decide they're not going to employ a clown in goal anymore. That might make their defence so much better. Like, these are the things you've got to be watching out for. There's going to be a lot more moves. Will Isaac stay at Newcastle? Will he go to Liverpool? Will he go to Saudi Arabia? Who knows? All these things you need to be on top of because they can affect how your team performs. So, on to my team selection for Game Week 2. And look, I'm rolling the transfer. I've got a squad value at the time of recording on 99.6. That could change because I'm recording this 2 days before. I've got 0.5 million in the bank from the Game Week 1 deadline. Sells is starting in goal. Now, I might change it to Dubravka. It all depends on the late mail and which way the card flips. If the card suggests that Dubravka's better than Sells, and that is one of the 8 calls this week, I'm highly likely to change it. The card was on fire last week. 6 correct calls out of 8. The other 2 didn't matter. It was a draw in terms of the points. I feel like Sells is still better to pick than Dubravka. I don't know why. I just struggle to pick Burnley assets. I know that they're going to finish 20th. That reason it's so hard to play them in any given game week, and I just struggle with that concept. So I think that Sells has to be the starting goalkeeper at this point for me in the team. So looking at the defence now, and look, I'm benching Collins this week. Let's be honest, he was just poor last week. He's probably going to sit there and get a goal and get the DC contributions this week. I'll look like an absolute idiot with the points on the bench. But if you sat there and delivered that against Nottingham Forest, I'm not keen to see what you deliver against Villa. Also, Juve. Now, Juve could definitely well get an attacking return against Chelsea. It's definitely possible they're back at home. But the way that they conceded those goals against Sunderland, I can't sit there with any confidence and suggest that he's a good pick. So for that reason, it has to be Milinkovic. Again, double Forest defence. I don't like playing double defence. I don't know why. It always seems to go poorly. I'm hoping this week is one of the weeks where it goes well. De Kuyper, he was so close to a clean sheet last week. Everton didn't look overly good against Leeds, and I'm hoping that they're still not ready. And Brighton can hopefully keep a clean sheet. I have no faith in Brighton's defence, by the way, but I'm hoping that he can do the job. Dorgu looked really good against Arsenal. If he sits there and does that against Fulham, I think he's definitely in line to get some sort of a return, whether it be defensive or attacking or both. He's not going to get DC returns, but one of those 2 I think is definitely on the agenda. So he's a pretty easy start this week in the back 3. So onto the midfield now, and this is going to be controversial. Now, I am benching Cody Gakpo, one of the 2 players of the 15 that returned last week. But the fixture is just the worst of the lot. Like Newcastle away. Newcastle looked good against Villa last week. People say that, Newcastle, Liverpool has a high-scoring sort of tone to that fixture, particularly when it's at Newcastle. But I just can't do it. I've got to sit there and just play the fixtures. And on paper, Gakpo has the worst fixture of my forward 8 this week. So for that reason, he just has to be on the bench. I'm probably going to regret it. He's probably going to return. I've actually even thought about bench boosting that bench this week, because in reality, they could all physically return, but they could all physically not return like they did in Game Week 1. Bruno Fernandes starts against Fulham away. I think he'll be good. He had the most chances created last week. There's no reason to think that he can't do that again. Surely he gets a return this week. It's a much easier opposition than Arsenal. That's for sure. The only thing to consider is that it is an away fixture, so maybe that plays a part. Rangers was originally scheduled to start on the bench, but after his week last week, surely he gets retained in the lineup by Pep. But you never know. He could get Pep related. I might regret this decision. I should have played Gakpo instead, who I expect definitely to start. But you've got to back in the man in form, and Rangers is the man in form. He literally led the sleigh last week as Rudolph. There's no reason to think he can't do it again. Cole Palmer's then in with the West Ham away fixture. Look, I'm going to tell you, Cole Palmer, you're officially on notice. If you do not perform this week, I'm telling you, I'm giving you the hot tip, you're gone next week. You are gone for someone to facilitate the Haaland in move in the forward line. I will not tolerate 10 game weeks in a row with no open play goals. You need to show up this week or you're gone. That's it, straight up. You can hold me to that. If he doesn't show up this week in return, he's out. Saka, very similar. If you do not show up, this is the reason why I picked you, because this is the best fixture in the opening game weeks for Arsenal. He needs to show up. He needs to dominate. He needs to get an attacking return. If he doesn't, again, he's going to find himself in the firing line, because the good fixtures for Arsenal outside of this week don't start until game week 7. They're on notice. Gakpo's benched in favour of these 2 fools that did nothing in game week 1. The pressure is on to deliver in game week 2. And then the forward line. So all three forwards are starting this week, and we are going to be playing a 3-4-3. So Van Linson, or even Nilsson, however you want to say it, he comes in for that Wolves at home fixture. Now, Wolves didn't look overly good against Man City, particularly defensively, so I'm quite happy to roll him in this week. Jared Bowen gets a chance of redemption. I hope that he shows up. I hope that West Ham show up. I hope that they attack Chelsea. Chelsea definitely looked a little bit off the pace against Crystal Palace. Hopefully, they're motivated to do something at home this week at the London Stadium. So that's why Jared Bowen starts. Because I did think about benching him and playing Gakpo instead based on what I saw on the weekend. Ollie Watkins has to start. Brentford were abysmal. They were abysmal defensively. Surely Aston Villa are better with that game under their belts. They look completely rusty. I don't know what they're doing in the transfer market either, Aston Villa. But I'm hoping that Watkins can turn it around. This week, I need to see something. These guys have the week of redemption. That's how we're rolling in. I'm going to roll the transfer and just hope for the best, really. I'm hoping as well that I've got the captaincy call right. I am backing in Saka as captain. I'm going vice captain on Cole Palmer. I could and ah about which one's the better pick. You could also look at Watkins, maybe even Semenyo's. Van Linson's the best pick here because of the fact that they actually scored some goals last week. But you've got to go with Saka. Leeds at home fixture. You would expect them to show up, hopefully put on a show at the Emirates Stadium. I'm just hoping at this point. I need a better game week than I got in game week 1. Otherwise, drastic changes are going to have to be made. I'm going to have to sit there and alter the team structure, but I'm more than happy to give them one chance of redemption, and hopefully these flogs can repay the D unit in game week 2. So that's my team selection for game week 2. Let me know if I've got the captaincy call right in the comments and whether I've got the benching decisions right. Benching Gakpo, Collins, and Juve just seems absurd. Like, that's a lot of money sat on the bench that I'm just benching this week. Let me know if I've got that right. Should I be making changes? I'm intrigued to know what you guys think. Let me know what your quandaries are in preparation for the late mail tomorrow. And if you haven't already, smash a like on the video, leave me a comment, and smash that subscribe button. I'll see you tomorrow for the late mail. The fun, entertaining start before you watch the FPL deadline stream on Friday night. You know the best streams on my channel. Let's go. I've been FPL D Unit, and I'll see you later tomorrow.